up? What's up? What's up, America? Good to see everybody out here today. We're going to get to it today because we got lots to talk about. Just want to remind you, I'm Wayne, coming to you from California.
I'm Carlin, coming to you out of the Gulf Coast, Texas, the hurricane-infested Gulf Coast.
Woo! And this is the August 26th edition of Wayne Carlin Show. And right off the top, let me tell you what's going to be on our plate today. We had a whole list of things that we were going to discuss and talk about with you, but we had to get rid of all that. We had to scrap it all. And we're just going to focus on a couple things today. And that's the shootings that have taken place over the last couple days. We're going to talk about that. And then the RNC is happening right now, the Republican National Convention. So we're going to cover that a little bit today. So if you have any questions or answers to what's going on, we want you to make comments about it so we can look at your comments. Our country is hurting right now. We need help and we need answers. We're going to discuss some of the things that we think, but we want to hear from you as well. So let's get started. Let's talk about the shootings of this past week.
Yeah, so we've got we got two shootings. We've got Wisconsin and we've got Louisiana. And neither one of those not really super large cities, Kenosha and then Lafayette. And so it's pretty interesting that to see how this is now, because at first it was, the large cities. Now this stuff is just taking place kind of more in every area. And so what we're going to do, and we're going to show the there were a couple of videos posted out there with what happened in the case of Jacob Blake. And so we're going to play one part of those so you can see it in a little inset here. So just check that out and then we'll talk about it
beforehand.
Mom, get back! Mom! Mom! You have to get back!
It is chilling, and remember, there are children in the car there. But
okay, so that's it's kind of, that was what really took place. It's kind of hard to see on this particular one. But what we want to do is we want to talk about some of the comments that others have made about the shooting, because that's really what a lot of the news is about. It's about the reaction that people have had, because whenever one of these events happens, then you're going to get people falling down on both sides. And so let's talk about some of the response that we've had out there, because as you've noticed, Kenosha, Wisconsin has been in the news now for, in the last 24 hours, two more killings. All right. Oh, let me stop that. All right. So two more killings have taken place. And so it's going to be important for us to kind of analyze this and think about what is the impact of what people are saying. So let's look at that. In one of these particular statements, Facebook had to pull down something that this person put on the website that called for an armed militia to respond. And so that's where you get this an arrest that's been made on this character named Rittenhouse after being charged with first-degree homicide, because evidently he was responsible for an altercation with a guy over a weapon. And this is some of the stuff that you see. This is out on the Guardian website, and they give the a post that was made on Twitter about him both being arrested. And as you see down here, there was the Facebook event where a militia called for armed patriots in Kenosha to take up arms, as it says here, to take up arms in Kenosha on Tuesday night. And evidently that was part of what took place. They asked the question, are patriots willing to take up arms and defend our city tonight from the evil thugs? That sends a lot of messages. What do you think, Wayne? That sends a lot of messages when someone posts that out on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously tensions have already been high in our country. Some might say for the last couple of months, but I'd say the last couple of years, tensions have been high. So a comment like that just sparks, already deep-seated anger and hatred and stuff that's going on. And people are willing to get out there. I was in the gun range the other day, and it was all good people shooting there. But, some people you look at like, what are you thinking about? So, this is definitely the powder keg that we've been talking about and that we've been trying to help quash, and put it down. But this is a part of it, man. This is what happens when we see these kind of shootings take place.
And so Facebook then took down the call to arms event, which was posted on their Facebook page. And a representative, they asked for him to see, for a comment. He couldn't comment. They've got an investigation, because what kind of sense of what's the responsibility in a case like this do you think Facebook has, because this is another big issue, whether or not Facebook should be held responsible for some of the things that they post. Because in this case, there was a call to arms. Do you think that Facebook should bear any sense of responsibility for the fact that a guy uses their platform to say, hey, let's go out and do this thing?
Yeah, that's a tough call. I mean, obviously the person who made the post is the most responsible for it. But I mean, they do have some sense of responsibility as well. I don't know what kind of algorithms they can use to be able to pull that thing down immediately before it starts to spread. But yeah, I do definitely think they should take some kind of responsibility in this as well.
Okay. And so let's look at some more of the comments that we've had here, because one of the interesting things is the responsibility, or the response actually, that you're getting from some of the celebrities and politicians. Here you see the Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes said that the shootings were not surprising, that white militias have been ignored for too long. So he's making a stand. And, you know, as the Lieutenant Governor, the question would be then kind of what has your administration done along these lines, if that is in fact what you believe. And so he can make that statement after this event happens. And is that trying to clear himself, or is that blaming somebody else? All right. So he says that we need, and down here you can see where he says we need police departments, sheriff's departments to acknowledge there's a real problem in the culture of policing. And one of the points I always make with my friend Wayne here, I always go, culture is a responsibility of leadership. It always is. And so up to this point, I would ask Lieutenant Governor Barnes, have you checked your police chief? Have you, and if this militia thing that you've been talking about, have you created some type of investigative panel to search that out and to do something about it? The bottom line is things like this happen when you allow, as they say here, a culture to take place. And I think that probably in a lot of our police departments around the country, there is in fact this culture that is taking place, and that's what we see. I would love to have your cousin on there, Wayne, Joseph, where we could talk about that with him, because I think this is really a cultural problem. Of course, in America, anything that becomes a problem of any magnitude or of any sort can always be dumped into the lap of race,
Right.
And it always is, because it's very convenient. So.
Yeah, you know, I think I told you many times, we're going through that process here in my small city of Vallejo as well, because for years and years, the culture in the police department has been strong on way too many shootings. And, you know, obviously the community sees them as unjustifiable, but there have been no prosecutions of any officers. And I say unjustifiable because many of them were unarmed young men, but nobody has been prosecuted for them. So, and it was just perpetuated. So that culture now is being, in my opinion, being changed with a new police chief who has a different mindset, who has a mindset of community policing, community interaction. So, in fact, he visited my school a couple of weeks ago. We just came out and talked to the children. I gave him opportunity to speak to them, and they couldn't really shake hands with him or a hug or anything like that because of COVID, but just changing the climate and the mindset in the police department. And so police departments are going to need to do this across the board.
Yeah, and I hate to be tooting my own horn here, but that's kind of what we're trying to do, because we understand that the issue is relationships, and relationships is going to be the I think the thing that makes a difference here, because when you've got those relationships, just whether it's the police chief or the policemen themselves, and they're in the community talking to people, relating to people on a first name basis, it changes everything.
Yes.
And not only do they need to do that, but we need to do that as Americans. I mean, and I think that's one of our problems, why all of these things are now so explosive, because nobody is responding to anybody as a human being, as a friend, you know, which normally we'd be covering humanize. We haven't humanized our neighbors. They're not now, if they don't think like me, they're now evil. If they don't agree with me on this, they're evil. And so we've got a long way to go, but I think the answer is always going to be in relationships. Let's look at what Hakeem Jeffries, one of the Democrats in the House, he said, and this is what we do. And I would say he can make some comments, but once we get it becomes a Democratic Republican issue, you know, those are the things that stop us from solving things together. He says, he makes the point, an unarmed black man is shot in the back 7 times by a white police officer. Now, we are the erase race American unity movement. We would phrase that totally differently. An unarmed black man is shot in the back 7 times by a white police officer. And you could make it just as egregious an act if you said, an unarmed man is shot apparently for no reason by a police officer.
Right.
And that way people understand, why would a person do that? And the question I would have for all Americans is, when we remove the color lingo out of there, the color jargon, we take that out of there, do you care less? Do you care more simply because the color is inserted in there? Do you care
That's
more?
a great question.
And I think those are problems, because so that's our problem. And I posted today on Facebook and said, we got to get out of the racial paradigm. That is just as egregious a statement when I say an unarmed man is shot for some suspectedly unknown reason. And because you don't know at the time, but you can say that it appears he's apparently shot for some unknown reason by a police officer. And then you've got a police officer killing people without just cause, as we would say, and perhaps without just cause. Now, we don't know, so we can't go to the end, and hopefully there'll be investigations to find this out. But when you do it that way, then you've got all these, and then you can really analyze the police department entire on all of these cases. Because I tell you what, some cases that never get looked at in today's society, I guarantee you, if I was a lighter skin, lighter melanin, quote unquote, white person, I would go, my uncle was killed and he did nothing. And he doesn't get nearly the support. There's nobody saying his life mattered or whatever. Nobody's saying that. And so, and I think they all have to be as egregious to us as the other. How can we not feel bad about any person who is unjustifiably killed? And so wherever that happens, and I think really the narrative that says it's more prevalent here, I think if we looked at the statistics and said that, well, it happened maybe even more in this community, if that's true. And like I said, we'd have to look at statistics. There's a great website that I saw the other day called killedbypolice.net. I said, and I think people need to go out to that website. I'm going to say here on our website, here on our show today, go check that out, killedbypolice.net. And it's got every killing by police officers. Mm-hmm. And it has, and sadly, it'll put the race, all that information, but it has all of them. And it'll give you a clip of a link to the website of the news station that covered it. So you can watch the video, you can look at the article about it and see what happened. And I think if all Americans look at that, then they would have a better sense of how prevalent is this? How big a problem is this for this particular group of people? And so I think those things need to be put in perspective. And so without me characterizing it, because like I said, I didn't go through all of them, but I'll tell you what, there are hundreds of them out there, hundreds, and these aren't just the unarmed. These are where the police killed anybody. And some of them, in some cases, are justified because this person shot at them. Like I looked at one and they pulled over this guy and he started firing at the police officers. They shot him. That's probably a good reason no Americans would get upset about that, I'm sure. Of course, well, some Americans would, but that would be a justifiable killing in the minds of most Americans. And so killedbypolice.net. So check that out. All right. So anyway, so he's asking, but the point that Hakeem Jeffries is making is, where is President Trump? And the next thing is, evidently, Vice President Pence is going to be called upon, and he's going to address these shootings tonight at the Republican National Convention. So we'll get an opportunity to see what they say, how they handle it. And this is the test of leadership. I tell you what, crisis. You have this, and people are asking for your head on a platter, and they're blaming you for all the problems in the world. How you respond determines your ability to handle leadership. And I don't think we're all created equally in the capacity to handle leadership. And so this is how we determine whether or not leaders are good leaders for us or poor leaders. And that's the way we should vote, based on the ability that they've shown to handle these things.
One of my favorite quotes is, and it's not a quote, but this topic is, the captain of the ship is not proven why the ship is docked in port.
Good one.
Yeah, he's proven why it's out there in the storm, facing the storm. So what can our leadership do when we're going through a crisis such as this? And our country is in crisis right now, multiple crises. So
that's a good one.
Yeah, this is the opportunity right now.
I like that. I'm gonna use that. All right, now we're gonna play a little bit of this clip from Doc Rivers, coach of the LA Clippers, and listen to what he says.
They're spewing this fear, right? Like, all you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung, we've been shot, and all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing why we keep loving this country, and this country does not love us back. And it's really so sad. Like, I should just be a coach. And it's so often reminded of my color. You know, it's just really sad. We got to do better. But we got to demand better. Like, it's funny. We protest and they send riot guards, right? They send people in riot outfits. They go to Michigan with guns and they're spitting on cops and nothing happens. The training has to change in the police force. The unions have to be taken down in the police force. My dad was a cop. I believe in good cops. We're not trying to defund the police and take all their money away. We're trying to get them to protect us, just like they protect everybody else. I didn't want to talk about it before the game because it's so hard. Like, to just keep watching it. That video, if you watch that video, you don't need to be black to be outraged. You need to be American and outraged. And how dare the Republicans talk about fear? We're the ones that need to be scared. We're the ones having to talk to every black child. What white father has to give his son a talk about being careful if you get pulled over? It's just ridiculous. And it just keeps going. There's no charges. Breonna Taylor, no charges, nothing. All we're asking is you live up to the Constitution. That's all we're asking for everybody, for everyone. Thank you.
Wow.
Whoa, what do you think, Wayne?
Man. he had a lot of good, strong points in there, you know, and this man is a very wealthy man. He's been wealthy all of his adult life. So a lot of the things he's talking about, you know, moving into certain neighborhoods and all that, he himself personally or his children don't have to deal with it. I don't know about his childhood, although he just said his father was a police officer. So that probably means he grew up, you know, middle class, which is good. But man, he had some strong points in there that he's right. Live up to the Constitution. That's very important. I mean, that's really what a lot of people just want. They don't want any special advantages or anything like that. Let's just be what the Constitution said. So, and he said some other things in there too that I know he's just hurting right now, like a lot of people are. When you watch those kind of videos, pain comes up. You know, when you see a man, and you know, again, we go back to tactics, and I believe bad police tactics. He mentioned training. All that has to happen. All that needs to take place. So yeah, it's good stuff there. You know, some other stuff that, you know, I can understand why he was saying.
So, and so my view on this, and I would love to talk to Doc Rivers and people when they respond, LeBron James, all these people who respond in public initially, what we do, and this is a human reaction, so I don't blame them because this is the way you respond as a human. When something happens to someone that you care about, we have a tendency to withdraw from people that are like the people who perpetrated the act against us. When the real responsibility, the one that really solves and makes it work better, is when you press into people who care like you care. In other words, you build consensus with the people who care like you care, and not just, and because in your mind, you've now created a them versus us. And so his comments start out saying, we just want whatever. And he draws this dividing line as though all the rest of the people are against us, and we're trying to do this thing and they're trying to stop us. And so that builds a we versus them, us versus them mentality. And I don't think that's what we need. We really need to press into. And that's why I push so much and say, We got to get rid of the racial paradigm. We got to cut that out so that we don't put them on the other side. And, you know, I use the story of David and Goliath. We're on one hill, the Philistines on one side, Israelites on the other. And that's the way we are. We're ready to go to war. And we stay poised like that in this country. We were ready to go to war at any time. And I don't think we need to go to war. What we need to do is root out those bad characters on each side, and they need to be dealt with. And like, that's why I always push, well, because leadership could do that. And we could do that in our institutions so that we don't make these blanket statements about those people.
Well, one thing he kept saying, though, he talked about the fear mongering that's coming out of the RNC, at least for the first night anyway. And it did. I heard it. It talked about the suburbs and you know, not being able to live in your house in the suburbs because you know the enemy is coming, and President Trump will stop that from happening. And so when you see that and you hear that, and I know that's not all that was being said, but there was a lot of fear mongering going on, even from his son. I can see where he's kind of separating us and them. Now, should he do it? No, I agree with him. But you know, when they are doing that, saying, you know, don't let them come. President Trump will stop them from coming into our neighborhoods, this and that. I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
Yeah, and that happens on both sides. The Democrats did the same thing they did the same thing in the opposite direction, and they said, "Hey, he's bringing his racist buddies. He's bringing these people, and this is what they're going to do. This is why they don't like us as Democrats, as liberals." Trump and his racists. So they paint the same picture that they're the people over there and they are against you. And so you get on the other side, you get the Republicans come up and they said, oh, here they come. They're coming to your suburbs, whatever. It's all inside of the racial paradigm. And we can create those them versus us ideas all the time. That ideology can just reign supreme. And it just does.
It does.
Every situation reigns supreme because we do it in a political format. And that is often dog whistle code format for the race issue.
Right.
And so it's just, we just got to see, and we don't understand that. And so, and these people are so well-intentioned. In the case of Doc Rivers, yeah, he's well-intentioned. He's saying all these things from his heart. And so he needs to go to the Erase Race website and hear what we're saying. He needs to watch this show and hear what we're saying. We're saying, Doc Rivers, we've got to get out of that racial paradigm. Get out of the racial paradigm, because the people who would perpetrate such an act against people because of their skin color, they operate inside the racial paradigm. And as long as we continue to operate inside that racial paradigm, we will have racial results. And racial results are what we're facing in America.
All right. So we kind of run out of time. We're going to show that second video. Let's see if we can pull that up.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go. And the next video is one with Trayford Pellerin. Let me make sure we've got that video ready to go. Hopefully I didn't close that video out. And I may have closed it out. So you're getting all my Facebook and everything. I've got my mail here. But let's see if I can find that Trayford Pellerin. I'll pull it up right quick.
So a little background on this is this was a shooting that took place in Lafayette over the weekend, Lafayette, Louisiana. And a man was seen supposedly with a knife. Unfortunately, it's hard to see on the video, but he was able to walk, I think he said about a half a mile to another store. Police, I don't know if the police were following him or what they were doing, and then they encountered him at the second location.
Okay. So this thing will come up in a few seconds here, and we'll be ready to go. Get the sound on it. Here we go. Ooh. Excuse us for the profanity.
Share your screen so we can see it. Did you share your screen?
What's that?
Did you share your screen?
Oh, let me.
We hear it, but we don't see it.
Okay. Let's see if I can replay that. Oh man, I'm going back and forth.
We don't want no.
You aren't buying.
All right, let me see. Now let me.
Hold on, folks. Be patient. It's coming.
Yeah. We got to get us a director, man.
Mm.
Okay, I gotta share the screen. They've got these commercials that play before, and so that's what it's pausing. It's got like 20 seconds before it actually plays.
Right.
So let me go ahead and
Hard to click out of them too.
share the screen with that. Yeah, got the sound good. Okay, so 10 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
That man got a knife. They gonna shoot him. No, we got to wait. We got to wait. No, but he knife. Get on the ground. They tasing him. He not even doing nothing. He gonna stab. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
Okay.
Wow.
So that was that one.
Yeah, we didn't get very good video from that other than just walking across the garage, gas station parking lot.
Okay. Yeah, it didn't show much because that's all they did. They were trailing him. He walked across the parking lot and was just walking away. And you can tell from one of the ladies who was speaking, he had a knife in his hand, and she talked about the fact that he had a knife. And yeah, he's going the other direction, and they shoot him.
Right.
And so
a knife obviously is a deadly weapon, and it can do a lot of damage to police officers and other people as well. The fact that he was walking away from them, you know, that's major. I was reading a report somewhere that said he was trying to enter the store. I don't know if that's true. The video didn't show it. So I guess that'll come out. Maybe there's some other video from the store video that we haven't seen yet. That poses a challenge if he was going into that store and there are other civilians in there and the police officer were concerned about that. So this is one that I haven't really said anything much on yet because I want to see if there's any more video, you know, see what the officers were thinking. I mean, that's probably what they're going to say, you know, that they were concerned about people in the store. And I don't expect, to be honest, as a trainer, former trainer, and now a trainer with civilians, I don't expect an officer to run and attack a person and try to subdue him with a knife in his hand. That's just putting their life in too much of a danger. So what's your thoughts about that?
yeah, this one is and both of these are problematic. And without knowing the 100% story, then we're all speculating. And so there are so many angles that this one could in fact take when he's got a knife because that is a deadly weapon, and he could have been they could have suspected he's perpetrating a crime or has the ability to perpetrate a crime against someone else with the knife and put them in harm, so they could make a justification. But, you know, it goes to a lot of things that I think that are not on the video, the stuff that probably led up to that and what was taking place there. You know, it's a very tough job. Policing is a very difficult job. And so it's easy for people who haven't done it or who are not on the police side to say, just don't do this, just don't do that, especially after something bad happens. But those are the same people who often, I remember the best story I have I can tell here before we get out of here for today was we were doing an event at the university there, here local, and we set up a little concession stand. We had to call 911 time because this guy was beating his girlfriend. He was beating his girlfriend. I mean, he was beating her. So the police show up, you know, and police show up and they stop the guy and they handcuff him. The girlfriend says, "Is this the way you treat people?" And she jumps on the police for treating him wrong because they jumped in to stop him from beating him. We're like, whoa, what is up with that? And so it's tough when you're dealing with those situations like that. And so I think hopefully more will come out, but at the end of the day, I think we've got to come up with solutions. And I think it's, you know, I don't think a lot of people are determined with solutions. The solution isn't to say, well, let's just stop having police forces. Let's just not fund the policemen. We've got to come up with real solutions that are going to work for the good of our society. And I think we can only do that together. And that's what we're trying to create here, an opportunity to listen to each other and to say, let's work on this together. And we don't do that by making a them us paradigm. We do it by exiting the racial paradigm and working together. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, and so we had some other things we were going to cover today because we're not going to even talk about the RNC, but we'll get a chance and we'll summarize it next week. But as always, I thought star was Melania because she always said, Melania, by the way, just as we exit, she said some great unity stuff. She did. She gave some great unity stuff. And she said that she started out by saying, I'm not going to waste my time attacking the other side. Very good. I love that. If everybody had that attitude, we could go a long way. I'm not going to waste my time attacking people. Let's come up with solutions. So that's what we're saying. Let's come up with solutions. All right. So that's what we're talking about here. Got an opportunity to support us, go out there and do that. You can go to our website, go to our Facebook page, look us up, find out what we're doing next, because we're going to try to get some opportunities to hear you. We're going to spend some time where we can listen to you, bring you in, because we think you've got solutions too. And that's what we want to be about. So Wayne, close us out and we'll be out of here.
Yeah, for those of you who definitely interested in looking more into this, go check out Jacob Blake's mom. Her name is Julia Jackson. She has some really good points that she brought up, and one of them was like you just said about unity. Let's not go out there and tear up stuff, tear up our communities, stuff like that. And we see what the result of that happened last night. Not that it was the fault of the people who were doing it. The shooters are at fault here, but her whole point was her son would not be happy with people burning things down and destroying buildings. Let's protest, but let's protest in a unified way. So check it out, and we appreciate you guys. We'll see you here again next week
on the Wayne Carlin Show. Now you know. If you want a job as a technical assistant, you see we need one, so come and get with us.